12 p.m. I chew up a 20 milligram OxyContin pill because I have a long drive ahead of me. 100 miles of asphalt stretching between me and a town I used to belong to. It does what it always does, coats me in that familiar warmth, like someone I love pressing their hands into my shoulders and telling me everything is fine. I stop to eat a big lunch because that is what responsible people do, and then I drive through the old streets like I am a ghost haunting my own past. By the time I reach my cousin's place, I am feeling the tail end of the high. It does not bother me. There is always more. For PM, I hand my cousin a couple of pills, a small tax for his hospitality. Then I scrape off the coating of one and grind it down to dust. This way it hits faster. I snort the line and feel the warmth again, creeping in like an old friend with bad intentions. The phone rings. A friend says his wife is making dinner, and he has a joint with my name on it. I think about it for less than a second and tell him I am on my way. 5 p.m. I walk in and toss him an OxyContin like I am handing out communion. He eats it without thinking and we light the joint, thick smoke curling into our lungs. I have not smoked in a few weeks, but the muscle memory is still there. We paint the nursery because that is what he was doing before I arrived, and I am too high to say no. It is for his kid, a baby that will be here soon. A baby who does not yet know his father is standing on unsteady legs. His wife calls us to eat, and we sit at the table and pretend to be men with clean hands and clear consciences. 7:30 p.m. My friend is sick. The OxyContin hit him like a car crash, and he is sweating and nauseous. I tell him to breathe, to go outside, to let it happen if it needs to happen. He goes to bed instead, and I go back to my cousin's place because what else is there to do? When I get there, he tells me he has something special. Duragesic patches. Fentanyl. I have never tried it before, but I know exactly what it is. I am suddenly wide awake. 8 p.m. We do some research because we are responsible drug users, and we decide that smoking it is the safest way to go, not injecting it. That would be stupid. We squeeze a small dot of gel onto foil and chase the dragon. It is good, but we are not sure if it is real or just the idea of it getting us high. So we take another hit, and another, and then we are sure this is real. 8:45 p.m. We take a cigarette and soak it in the gel. It feels scientific, like we are chemists running an experiment. We smoke it and ride the wave, feeling the slow, creeping weight of it settle into our bones. The phone rings. Another friend. He wants to go to Waffle House. We are high, but we are not dead, so we say yes. We have been eating everything in sight all night anyway. Hot dogs, Cheetos, frozen pizza, coffee. I am not sure if it is the weed or the fentanyl, but my cousin has not smoked anything, and he is still devouring everything in the house. I think maybe this is what it means to be alive. I think maybe we have discovered something no one else has. 11 p.m. I measure out a few drops of fentanyl gel and drip them onto some Tylenol pills for tomorrow. Future me will appreciate the thoughtfulness. Then I cut the patch open and lick the inside. My cousin takes a hit and says he is high but cannot sleep. I tell him that is unfortunate. Then I sit in front of a screen, scrolling through the internet, playing a video game, existing in that strange limbo between euphoria and exhaustion. I do not try to sleep. There is no point. 1 a.m. I take another lick of the patch. It tastes bitter and chemical and perfect. The itch starts, a slow creeping crawl across my skin, but it is not bad. Just a reminder that I am still here. I am high, so high that time is just a suggestion. So high that my thoughts stretch out like static on an old television. I put on the Shawshank Redemption, not to watch, just to have something familiar in the background. The walls breathe with me. My heartbeat is slow. Everything is fine. 4 a.m. I suck on the patch, letting the last of the gel dissolve on my tongue. It is bitter and electric and lingers in my mouth like an omen. This is the highest I have been all night. It is a high that moves in waves, cresting and breaking, never fully letting me go. Then my phone buzzes. It is a text from my girlfriend's roommate. She found her on the floor, barely breathing, blue lips, slow pulse, emergency responders on the way. I stare at the words. My fingers do not move. I do not call. I do not ask if she is okay. I just sit there, my mouth still tasting of fentanyl, my body humming with euphoria, and I watched the words blur together on the screen. My cousin mumbles something about getting more food. I nod. 5:06 a.m. Another text. She survived. Somehow, they gave her naloxone, brought her back. I light a cigarette and let it burn down to the filter, staring at the screen, but not really seeing it. I tell myself I should feel something. I probably will not. The bags under my eyes are dark and my skin feels cold and damp. But the high is still there, wrapping itself around me like a lover who refuses to leave. The experience was perfect. It could have gone wrong. It did not, but it could have. I am aware of that. I think about the Tylenol pills waiting for me tomorrow, about the fentanyl dried into their dusty shells. I think about how much I should take. A milligram? Maybe a little more? Maybe just enough to push the edge a little further next time. Just to see. Just to know. I close my eyes. I do not sleep, but I tell myself I might. And for now, that is enough. It started like the others. The ritual. The slow walk into the hospital. The bored receptionist who could not care less if I lived or died. The waiting room where people stare at the walls like prisoners awaiting execution. My wife and my mother sat on either side of me, talking about things that seemed trivial, but I was too wired to care. There is no real conversation when you know they are going to drug you up and shove a tube down your throat. That knowledge sucks the meaning out of small talk. They called my name. I stood up too fast. My blood pressure was probably already high, and now I felt lightheaded. A nurse guided me down the hall, into the little changing room, where I stripped down and put on the flimsy paper-thin hospital gown. It felt like an insult. They lead you to believe that they are healers, but they start by robbing you of dignity. My mother and my wife waited outside while I changed. I had no idea what they were talking about, and I did not ask. We moved to the prep room. I climbed onto the bed, and the nurse stuck an 4 into my arm. The needle bit deep. My body reacted instantly, but my mind was elsewhere. I watched the saline drip into the tube. It looked weak, slow. My blood pressure was high. My heart rate was high. They told me I was nervous. No kidding. I babbled to my wife. Babbling is a nervous habit, and right now I had nothing but nerves and a deep sense of inevitability. I had been here 3 times before, but that did not mean I trusted them. 30 minutes passed. The doctor's assistant appeared and wheeled me down a hallway that smelled like bleach and stale air. The kind of smell that tells you 100 people have died here, and they just wiped it up and moved on. The procedure room was sterile and cold. A nurse was there. She hooked up the machines to monitor my vitals and handed me a form explaining all the risks. It was a joke. I already knew the risks. They could kill me and call it an accident. Happens all the time. They sedate you. They pump you full of chemicals. They cut and probe and extract. Sometimes you wake up. Sometimes you do not. That is the deal. You sign the paper. You agree to be another body under the scalpel. I signed it. What else could I do? The doctor came in. He introduced himself like I was supposed to care. I shook his hand because that is what you do. He asked if I had questions. I said no. He asked if I was nervous. I said yes. He told me to roll onto my left side. I did. The nurse was preparing the medication. A syringe connected to my 4. A slow push. The first wave burned. Midazolam. The second was clean. Fentanyl. Then it came. The warm rush. The beautiful, intoxicating feeling of chemicals flooding the brain, numbing every sharp edge, dissolving every fear. The walls softened. My body lightened. My nerves melted. My thoughts were a pleasant drift, and I let them carry me away. I loved this feeling. This floating, untouchable euphoria. I loved it like an old friend, like a safe place. The warmth spread. My mind stretched, and then light, dark, recovery room. Something about 7-Up, something about a video game. Voices, too far away to understand. Time moved in strange jumps. I was at the hospital. I was in a car. I was at my parents' house. My wife was talking to me. My stepdaughter hugged me. I could not understand a damn word anyone said. It was all noise, distant and meaningless. I was hungry. Someone gave me soup. White rice, buttery soft, comfort food, but my stomach twisted. I needed to go to the bathroom, but my legs did not want to cooperate. Darkness swallowed me again. Then it was 1:30 in the morning. The world was silent, black outside. I was awake. I was never going back to sleep. The next day, the details came together. They had to sedate me deeper. The doctor had tried to put a tube down my throat, and apparently, I did not take kindly to that. I fought him. I fought him like a wild animal. The sedation dose shot up. 12 milligrams of midazolam, 300 micrograms of fentanyl, 25 milligrams of promethazine. I had never taken that much before, not even in my worst days, when I had dabbled in the heavy stuff. My brain had been obliterated, my body turned into a ragdoll, my will reduced to nothing. They had to hold me down and push me further into oblivion just to get the job done. The next morning, I felt like hell. My head was pounding, my mouth was dry, my stomach was twisted up. A beautiful chemical euphoria followed by a full-body punishment. The price of sedation, the cost of an experience I would barely remember. I would never do it for fun. I knew that much. There were better ways to wreck your mind, better substances to chase the void, but still, part of me lingered on those moments right before the blackness. That bliss, that weightlessness, that perfect absence of worry. It was something, and something is always better than nothing.